Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, Red Circle, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Also, the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn the notifications on. We cover more than just the Heat there. We've got messy content pretty much all day long. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's where you get text directly to your phone from Greg, me, Alex, and Brady. You can bypass X or Twitter or whatever it is it's called these days. Get those texts directly to your phone, special Q&As, contests, all kinds of cool stuff, behind-the-scenes information, $3.05 per month. Go to winnow.app. That's winno.app/Off the Floor. Also, check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, including Prize Picks. Hopefully, I have better luck there than I had speaking it. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E, get that initial deposit matched up to $100 at Prize Picks. Yes, there's plenty of stuff to play right now, including MLS. But also, you can play FIBA coming up here the next week. Your basketball fans out there, MLB, boxing, MMA, and more. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E, get that initial deposit matched up to $100. And now, today's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Yeah. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick in the 5 Reasons Sports. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow me at Greg Sylvander. We've got our guy Timothy Bain, our Bahamian correspondent, was with me in training camp. You find Timmy on a lot of the shows, including our pregame show on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel, and The Voice MB, which is where you can find him on Twitter, the guy Michael Baiamonte. How many years is it now, Michael?
Ethan, next season will be my 33rd.
I am 32 years old. Wow.
Thanks, Timothy. Nice to meet you. It's a great way for you and I to get things.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's been a long time. You know what? By the end of this, it's a punish Timothy for jumping in there and reminding us that he's younger than both me, Greg, and I know Michael. You should do like one of those Luol Deng things for Timothy Bain before we so put that in your head here, and we'll do that before the end of it. This is the third of 5 installments that we're doing here to preview Dwyane Wade going into the Hall of Fame on Saturday up in Springfield. If you haven't caught them yet, we did one episode on Dwyane's rookie year. We call it The Rise of Flash. I did that with Tony Fiorentino. We did the big 3 years. We did not the big 3 years. I'm sorry. Well, why am I saying The Rise of Flash? I'm sorry. Let me start here from the beginning. The Innocent Beginning we did with Tony Fiorentino on the first year. We did The Rise of Flash with George Sedano. And now today, we're doing This Is My House. And look, it was one moment, but it kind of captures 2 seasons. It captures the 2008-2009 season, the 2009-2010 season. And look, I did refresh my memory a little bit because we went on playback and we watched highlight packages. We just did this. Timothy and I were on there. My God.
Just amazing.
I mean, best in the world, which is what Pat Riley called him at that point, BIW. The body control, the combination of the athleticism that he had prior to the injuries, but then also the basketball IQ, which maybe he hadn't quite developed in the finals in 2006, when he was mostly working with athleticism. The pump fake, which kind of came into play during this period of time. The work on the baseline, while still being the best shot blocking guard pretty much in NBA history. Before we get into the specifics of it, Michael, he comes back in 2008, right? And he comes off that Olympic run where he re-announces himself, and in a lot of ways was the best player on a team that included guys like Kobe Bryant, etc., LeBron James. When you started to see him in 2008, did he look different to you than he had the previous 2 seasons?
Ethan, I think he may have, and part of that probably is due to that Olympic run. I think that Olympic run did a lot for him because at that point, he was playing against his peers in the league. That is, the greatest players in the league. And I think Dwyane came out of that Olympics saying to himself, hey, you know what? I'm on par with these guys, but right now I might be even moving into a little bit of an ascension at that point, coming off of the Olympics, so that he comes in to that NBA season. And as you've already told everyone, it's the Dwyane Wade show. Let's face it. The Olympic stage, I think, gave him the understanding that it could be the Dwyane Wade show, and it could be a success as the Dwyane Wade show, as best as it could. And I don't know that any other player in the NBA could have gotten more out of those teams in those 2 seasons other than Dwyane. I'll also argue that it was the start of Dwyane learning the intricacies of the game that made him a better teammate when the big 3 was put together. Because in that Olympic run, he had to learn how to play more like the player he was in the big 3 years for the Heat than when he was running the whole show. Mm-hmm. And so do I think he looked different? Maybe not necessarily physically, but clearly mentally and with his own confidence. Yes, he was a different player.
Yeah, and I want to pivot to Greg here now as we go forward. I think when you look at that team and also that coach, I mean, this was a first-year coach. A lot of people looked at the Eric Spoelstra hire. I remember writing a column when he came in saying I liked the hire, but some didn't. Like, they were like, okay, wait, what are they doing here? You know, you had Pat Riley still here. You know, I know he took a little bit of a break in 07, 08 when things kind of fell apart, but you're taking somebody out of the video room. He's 37 years old. And then you have the number 2 pick in the draft, but an extremely talented player, but obviously a little bit raw in terms of the way he played the game. And then you were starting a rookie point guard who was a 2nd-round pick and wasn't really a full-time point guard in college at Kansas. He was more of a scorer, and he ended up starting in Mario Chalmers 82 games. This was the core. Like, you're going into a season with Dwyane, Beasley, Chalmers, UD, who had to kind of step aside a little bit for Beasley, but there were no guarantees that this team was going to be even competitive, I don't think, coming into this season, unless Dwyane was superhuman, and to a certain extent he was. Greg, I'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah, so, excuse me. I want to go right into the 08-09 season, because that is where I felt like we saw some of the stuff from Dwyane that was just the most jaw-dropping. And you had the best seat in the house and got to call all of that. So I think you come from a unique perspective of that you're a part of the play, and you also get to hear the crowd's reaction. So this is a twofold question. Is there a moment in that season, in the MV3 season, I'll call it, that really sticks to your gut that you remember from Dwyane, that just you could never forget it, that type of moment, whether it be just its stature in Heat history or the reaction from the crowd that you remember from whatever that moment may be?
So, Greg, that's interesting. It was a season that we would come into the arena every night, almost talking to one another, working at the stats crew table, saying, I wonder what we're going to see tonight.
Right.
It's, every night it was, well, what's it going to be tonight? And what's it going to be tonight? The one thing that does stand out to me was this interesting effect that has only happened on a limited number of occasions since when we talk about those 2 seasons. And that is when a player makes such an iconic basket or shot that I can go back and say, I was belting out that player's name as loud as I could, and I guarantee you nobody heard anything that came out of the public address system inside the building. That's probably when I started to realize, you know what? You don't have to kill yourself when Flash goes bananas because nobody's going to hear it anyway. Now that, I can, since those 2 seasons when he was just amazing, I can count just a couple of baskets where that has happened since. But in those seasons, it happened more often than I can't even tell you how many times, when he would come down the lane and put up a shot with his back to the basket, and he's looking at me at the scorer's table, and the ball's going up and going in, and that's kind of, it started a little bit earlier than that, a couple of years earlier, but that's where really some of my announcements, when he would just make these amazing shots, and he would get fouled. Basket by Dwyane Wade is incredible. Just amazing stuff. That basket by Dwyane Wade is good. That just wasn't good enough of an announcement. I mean, the shot was ridiculous. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Timmy, I'll let you jump in here a little bit, because one of the things that we were talking about on playback was that this was your first year really following this team. You got to see all the games.
Right. So just taking you back to my Heat journey, in 2002. So I grew up watching basketball because my mom played basketball and she liked Kobe. So it was the Shaq 1999 to 2002. So she bought me a Shaq jersey. And then in 2002, I really liked Tough Juice. So it's like, okay, I live in the Bahamas. So I go to Miami every single year. I might as well play for the Heat. So I went from watching Caron Butler to the Wade years. And of course, still in high school. My parents were the type of parents where I can't watch TV during the week, so I only really watch TV on the weekends. My father doesn't like sports. He's a mechanic, so he likes cars. So I'm like, the first time I can actually watch basketball every single night without hearing my mother's voice, because my first year in college was 2008. So that went for me from seeing. So in the Bahamas, everyone is either a Laker fan, a Celtic fan, or a LeBron fan. I was the only Heat. It was 2 or 3, but I was the only one saying I'm a Heat fan. So that summer was plenty trash talking for me. Like, Wade was arguably the best player on the Olympics, and then even in the season where Wade finished, Wade done, with the shoulder to the knee, I said, no man, he's back, and I go to watch it every single night. And so I'm playing 2K today. I'm at college playing on the entry team, just trying to do my little Wade moves and talking about the Wade. And I come home, and he's just killing everybody's favorite player. Like, that was ridiculous to me. So I always loved basketball. Was always a Heat fan, but 2008-09 was where I was able to fully immerse myself in Heat culture. Like, that was ridiculous for me. That was a good baptism for me.
And Timmy, you mentioned it, like killing everybody's favorite player. Like, when we're watching these highlights on playback, I mean, he's running Kobe Bryant through screens.
Ray Allen
Allen looks completely lost against him, and that was not old Ray who came. No,
that was the year they won the ring.
The year they won the ring. I mean, he was literally kind of unstoppable. What I want to do here with Michael as we go forward here is I want to go through some of these moments, and you'll have to remind me, because some of them, I remember them being at home, but I'm not 100% sure, but I know some of them were, okay? Because it kind of runs together a little bit. I was covering the team at home at that stage. I didn't travel with those 2 teams, but I was at pretty much all the home games. But I want to get to some of those moments. We do want to mention a couple more sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Our betting partner is a legal betting partner, by the way. It's betteredge.com. Use the code 5RSN. That's 5RSN, the number 5RSN. You get $20 to play. Again, you're betting against others who use it. You're not betting against the app or a bookie. That's why it's legal in 45 states, including the state of Florida. Go to betteredge.com. Also, water cleanup. We know that things happen. You get leaks, you get mold, all that kind of stuff. Reach out to Michael, Robert, and his team. They got more than 70 plus. They got more than 75 star Google reviews. You can check them out at WCUFL.com, 954-579-0356. That's Michael's personal cell phone. Huge Miami Heat fans as well. They were probably there for the This Is My House game. I'm sure they were. They're based in Boca, but they service Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. We always say this here, Greg, if you've got the schmutz,
they got the guts.
All right, so let's get to it. Speaking of guts, what the hell was Anderson Varejao thinking? Let's go back to that one during that. Now, that one was at home, okay? I remember that. That was a TNT game from what I recall. Varejao went at Dwyane. What do you remember from that sequence, Michael?
So let me run back with you, Ethan. Is that the Was that the game where he had the behind the back dribble right at the sideline?
Yes.
Okay. So that was ridiculous in and of itself, that move where he's got the ball, but he puts it behind his back, gets past his defender, and then goes up and just destroys Anderson Varejao. What Varejao was thinking at that point, I have no idea. It was embarrassing. For me, it was phenomenal. Because, the thing that ultimately happened with Dwyane is it got to the point with the Heat fans and myself. Anytime I said Dwyane Wade's name for any reason during a game, the fans went bananas. And so once I figured that out, I started prodding the fans to get that. So whatever it was, if he was coming in the game, now in the game for the Heat, Dwyane Wade, people go crazy. Now coming out of the game, Dwyane Wade, people go crazy. At the free throw line, Dwyane Wade.
What a tool for hype.
It's just whatever it was, for whatever reason. So he puts it right on Varejao's head. And from that point on, if you were there watching whenever we played, I think at that point he was playing with Cleveland, I think.
Yeah.
Anderson Varejao really had a stink eye for Dwyane Wade every time we played them after that, because he never forgot what Dwyane did to him. Now, the problem with that is you're Anderson Varejao, okay? So whether you are upset with Dwyane Wade or not, there's nothing you're going to do to stop him in the future, and he never did. But I'll never forget, ever since that moment, he had, obviously for good reason, he wanted to get back at Dwyane and just never could. But that just goes to show you what Wade was able to do. And you name some players, again, guys he played with in the Olympics, that here we go. He's running them left, right, and down the middle on the court because he learned that he had that capability when they were playing together. It was a lot of fun to watch that guy. There was times, Ethan, you take it way, way, way back. Games 3, 4, and 5 of the 2006 NBA Finals, where Dwyane Wade was the greatest player on planet Earth. Those 2 seasons, you saw bits and pieces of that.
Right.
We saw it in 3 games, but you saw it in, for me, I saw it in 41 games. And that was really a lot of fun. It was amazing to see this guy continue to do it. And get this team to places, as I said earlier, that they would have never gotten and really should have. They had no business getting, to where they got in those 2 seasons, but because of him.
Yeah, I want to let Greg jump in next. I do want to mention Varejao, though, because there's a funny anecdote related to this. So this was 08, 09 or the 09 period of time. So after LeBron left the Heat in 14, we went to Rio. And it was for a Heat Cavs preseason game. And I flew down there, Joe Goodman, Chandel, some other reporters, and we were staying at the Heat Hotel. But I was also kind of starting to cover the Cavs then, because Bleacher Report, in my contract, I was the LeBron guy. So I was kind of going back and forth between the 2 teams. And I actually did a day with Varejao in Brazil, in Rio, because, of course, he was the big star. He was a huge Brazilian star there. He did something at like a bookstore, a signing and all that. And somebody comes up to him with a 3 jersey. I remember Dwyane was still on the Heat at this point. Company comes up to him with a Heat jersey, and he has a picture. This kid was like 14, 15 years old, and it was a Brazilian kid. Okay, it was a local kid. Had a picture of Dwyane dunking on Varejao, and I will give Anderson credit. He signed it. Just like when may rest in peace, just like when Bill Buckner, I once went to a card show, and Bill Buckner and Mookie Wilson would appear together. And Bill Buckner actually, I know it hurt him, but he would actually be very cordial with people who reminded him of the ball going through his legs on Mookie Wilson's ground ball. But Varejao actually was nice. I don't think he liked it, but he did sign it. So I'll give him credit for that, Greg.
I want to go to a game. It was later in the season, actually, February 28th. It was Heat Knicks. And the Knicks effed around and found out, as we'll say, because they bloodied Dwyane, and then Dwyane went off for 24 in the fourth quarter. And it was one of the more, like we talk about the this is my house moments, and there's always the iconic on the stand, standing on the, right where you guys check in, right in front of where you're sitting, actually. And then there is this moment I felt like was another this is my house moment against New York. What do you remember about that night where Dwyane Wade sliced up New York, especially because at that time, there were still a few Heat fans out there, myself included, that had animosity towards New York because of the 90s. So we felt like, oh no, is this a rivalry happening again? Why are you messing with our guy Dwyane? What do you remember about that game?
So, Greg, you bring that up and you talk about going back. There's one terrible memory I have that sounds like this. Allen Houston.
And don't do that to me.
That's kind of where I think you were going for a minute. But yeah, you wonder, listen, are we gonna, what's happening here? Are we going back to, that time period? And then all of a sudden you've got D Wade having to come off the court because he's bleeding. And is he coming back? Will he come back? Is he going to be okay? And he comes back. Not only does he come back, but he comes back. I mean, there's two guys that you can remember in Heat history that get bloodied and come back with a vengeance. D Wade's one, Udonis Haslem is the other against the Indiana Pacers. And they both came back with the same mindset. You're not doing that to me. I'm not allowing that to happen. And guys, let's go. And so it was game on at that point. I guess you can call it that. You can say game on at that point. And it was take it to another level and get everybody, the place gets fired up. The arena gets fired up. I'm trying to get everybody fired up. And it's great because that Knick rivalry, having been a part of that so many years ago, that just never leaves you. That's still there. It's always there. And so to see him do that without showing too much, we're sitting there at the scores table saying, yeah, get him again, get him again, get him again.
So I'm gonna let Timmy close here, but before let's get to this little sequence of games. There was a stretch at home, the Utah game, a couple of that went like multiple overtimes. But look, everybody remembers the Chicago game, right? And we were watching it again. Ben Gordon was on the other side. They were kind of going at it a little bit, but it's crazy because everybody remembers the jumping up on the table and this is my house and he's fist bumping Nick Harrison and everything else that's happening there, right? But like there were so many plays in that game. That's the thing. Like
it was a ridiculous game.
Right, it might have been honestly his best game he ever played, other than the NBA Finals. Like there were like 7 sequences where they were out of it, and he brought them back into it. And this is like a regular season game in the spring. You know what I mean? Like for a team that ultimately we knew was probably not going anywhere. Like they were going to be capped out in a first round kind of situation. I just am curious for your recollections of that game, that moment. Because it's been his house since.
I actually almost didn't see the last play because it's no way we're going to win this game. Like, Wade is great, but at that point, I thought that the Bulls were just too great. Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich, Derrick Rose, Sean Salmons. I think Tyrese Thomas was still there, Joakim Noah. It's like, there's too many good players, they'd be overwhelmed. And then I remembered someone called me, Bulls fans, like, man, y'all gonna win. It's like, no, we're not. And then I remember my mother cursed me out because it was like, at the point, maybe like after 10, she trying to sleep. I was in my own bed shouting, this is my house. Watching that game on my laptop. And I just sat in awe, like, how did the Heat win this game? Like, he literally willed them to win. They willed.
Yeah, and Michael, you're viewing it from your seat because just to remind people where you sit, okay? Because again, there's and I know things have changed a little bit over the years, and that second row used to be media, but you know what happens here. They had to sell those seats and bump us upstairs. But not that I'm bitter about any of that. I was pointing out that for the Dwyane shot against New Orleans in the first round, I'm literally sitting baseline, like Dwyane basically dropped that shot in my lap. I didn't get those seats anymore after that. But I just tell people, Michael, because he didn't jump on your table. He jumped on the table across from you, which is really the ownership table, correct?
Right. There's a table on each side of the court. I'm on the side where the benches are, so where the players come and check in, that's where I sit. I'm about, if not right at the midcourt stripe, within a foot or two off of the midcourt stripe to make all of your viewers jealous. I look straight across at Mickey Arison. So the owner of the team and I basically have equivalent seats on opposite ends, which can be intimidating, by would I'll tell you that.
That's just what I was going to say. Does it make you nervous?
You paid less for yours, Michael. I will say that.
Certainly, yes, I would agree with you. So I'm on the opposite side of the table that he jumped on for that game. You also mentioned the Utah game. I just quickly want to say to that, if I remember that correctly, overtime game, game-winning shot, but kind of one of those bounce goes in, right?
Yeah.
Was that okay?
I think it was multiple overtimes too, Michael. I'll check it after.
It may have been.
Yeah, I think
is that the game where James Jones had like 4 threes in like 2 minutes or something like that?
It might have been.
JJ
will remember, I'm sure, of that.
But I remember the bounce in, game over, drive home safely. As far as the Chicago game, Timothy Bain, let's not lose sight of the fact that he had to make a steal in order to get possession of the ball to have a shot at making the game winner. And that goes back to maybe the last 2 minutes, Ethan. You may have, having watched it recently, you may remember he was on top of every single play that I can remember in that home stretch, including it almost got to the point where, okay, now he's going to do something else because he's been doing something for the last 5 Chicago possessions. And so he makes the steal. He comes down, puts up the 3 and hits the 3. And again, going back to a few of those games where I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, Dwyane Wade, and nobody can hear a word coming out of my mouth because the place has just gone bananas and everybody's going crazy. I see him go to the other table, which I'm extremely jealous that he went to the other table. I wish he would have come to our table, but that's okay. He goes to the other table and I can see from his back, he's given but I don't know what he's saying because I'm looking at his back. And then once we get the video review or the replay, we can see him saying, "This is my house." And you've got Nick and Mickey and everybody wants to high five him at the Eric Reed's high fiving him at the table at the time. The broadcasters are right there. And so that was magical. I mean, for that season, probably that's without a doubt the most magical moment that he had. And I don't know that that was ever repeated until the last season when he hit that crazy shot against Golden State. I mean, that's going,
off the wrong foot.
Off the wrong foot.
Oh, right. I mean, everything with that was wrong, Timothy. Everything with that. Nothing went right with that shot. I mean, the block, the try to get it, and then just almost like hot potato the thing. How do you hot potato a 3 and it goes right in? So
well, we know James Harden wouldn't have done that. I'll just say this about the Dwyane shot or Paul Pierce. I'll just say this about the Dwyane shot against Golden State. He just had to upstage Dion. That's it. Because Dion had the moment against Golden State. And then
for like 5 seconds.
For 5 seconds, and then Dwyane took him over. But Dion was Kobe Wade. I think though, as we talk about all this, and I think this is a good place to close, and we appreciate you, Michael. Follow him at The Voice MB on Twitter. I think the thing about this that I think is admirable about Dwyane, because in each episode we've tried to find the thing that really sticks out, is that he had all these moments for 2 seasons. He was the star of the show. It was completely his house, his town. And yet when they lost to Boston, he sat at the podium and said, I need help. And he was not content just doing this. And I think a lot of other guys would have been. Yeah. And he was okay with, and we didn't know at the time that it was going to be LeBron James and Chris Bosh. Okay. But he was okay with the idea that he might have to give up a piece of his fame, and not fame because his fame was there, but his glory, I think, and his opportunities. Because like you said, at the end of that game, that This Is My House, he made every play. Like, it wasn't like somebody else there was going to steal his spotlight, right? Like, everybody knew it was Dwyane and get the hell out of the way. UD go set a screen, Rio get in the corner or whatever it was. And he gave that up. He gave that up to play with LeBron and Chris. And we never really got a chance to see it again until, I mean, you mentioned the shot of Golden State, but I actually go to the 15-16 playoffs where the 16 playoffs where a purple shirt guy and Dwyane kind of had those moments where it was really about him because Bosh was out, Whiteside got hurt. But we didn't get a chance to see it for years. Most guys would not have done that. And I think that is one of the great sacrifices that he made, because he could have kept doing that for a couple more years. We didn't know the knees were going to go, but he could have kept doing it. Michael, I just want to let you have the last word here. Just your thoughts as the first player the Miami Heat have ever drafted goes in the Hall of Fame on Saturday.
Yeah, it was an absolute honor to have the opportunity to announce Dwyane Wade and his career for almost all of it. I've told people I've had the fortune of announcing every single home basket that Dwyane Wade has ever scored in his Miami Heat career. And that's wow. That's a privilege. That's a privilege to watch that guy and the way he performed and the magic that he did. It was just remarkable. I'm so happy for him. What a wonderful weekend, and so well-deserved to be the next Miami Heat Hall of Famer. Congratulations, Dwyane. I cannot wait to see you go in the Hall of Fame Saturday night.
All right. Thank you, Michael. We can't wait to see you.
Basket by Dwyane Wade is good.
You know what? Just do it. Take us out. And then we close. Go ahead. He just game winner. I'll present the scene for you. It's against the Knicks. Okay. Let's just do that. Game winner, fall away baseline jumper. Let's just say that Allen Houston in his prime is guarding him. Okay, let's cross over the eras. We want to make them pay as much as possible. Ewing is sitting there down in the paint, right? Oakley's down there somewhere, LJ, whatever. Balls to Dwyane. They're down 1. He gets the ball with 2.1 seconds left. Turnaround jumper is good. Go, Michael.
Dwyane Wade. Final score, your Miami Heat 116, the New York Knicks 115. Heat fans, please drive home safely. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.